This is From Courtroom to Carline, the podcast where we discuss life as a lawyer and a parent.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Rick.
Your hosts and partners both in the courtroom and in parenting.
Join us as we navigate the fascinating worlds of law and family life.
Now, this is not legal advice, but in every episode, From Courtroom to Carline is a delightful blend of legal insight and parenting hilarity.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride where law meets love and where the gavel meets the car line. Welcome to another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. Today on the show, we've got a very special group of guests. We've got Chrissy, John, and Ashlyn Wear with Gulfview Plumbing. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We're super excited to be here.
So let's start off by telling our viewers exactly what your business is and where they can find you if they need help, whether it's a plumbing issue or whatever it is that you guys do.
So as you said, we're owners of Gulfview Plumbing and Water Treatment. We can be found just about anywhere online. Our website is gulfviewplumbing.com. Social media on Facebook.
Yep.
Chrissy's very active with our social media, as I'm sure as she'll explain here in this podcast.
Yep, we're on Instagram, YouTube, all of that, but the main one, we like to drive everyone to our lovely website, and I'm learning the videos of Facebook, so getting the face out there.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, Ashlyn, you actually have a business as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. I sell jewelry. I've been doing it for 3 to 4 years now. I sell customizable pieces, necklaces, bracelets, and rings. Most of the time, it's a lot of bracelets that people like to put names on.
Okay.
Did you ever start in the family business, or were you like, I am not getting into the plumbing world, this is what I want to do?
I help a little bit with the plumbing company, answering, dispatching, stuff like that to help out. But I do a lot of my own jewelry business.
How old are you?
I'm 14 years old.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal that you've been able to find something that you enjoy and can turn it into your own little business. That's awesome.
I do want to put in that she makes customized. She just doesn't sell it. She actually hand makes the jewelry herself and then sells them.
Very nice. When did you guys start Gulfview Plumbing?
So it started around 2015 is when we had the chance to possibly buy another plumbing company. And when we couldn't come to terms financially, that kind of fell through. We started thinking, over dinner, we were like, hey, why don't we just start our own company? And it took us
Well, we were kind of mentally prepped at that point, when we were in the conversation of taking over a previous employer's business that had already been established. And then at that time, as Chrissy said, once we couldn't, come to terms with that, we had already mentally prepared ourselves for what we were going to get into. We just created a bit more work for ourselves from starting it from the ground up. And we overlooked a lot of stuff early on, like some of the difficulties of what it would take. I mean, just little things like, company name and logo and colors and, uniforms and, all these things that you need, invoice layout and those type of things for our business that we just didn't have in place that an established business already would have, so we had to create those things first, and once we had those in place and started to, use our previous experience from where we had been, because we both came from the plumbing field, everything else just kind of quickly fell in line for us. And then Gulfview was officially started in 2017.
Now, you guys said you were both in plumbing. Chrissy,
Yes.
Did you do anything previous to plumbing?
I sure did. I was a vet tech. I actually specialized in cleaning teeth for animals, and I absolutely loved it. But unfortunately, I was involved in an accident, and I no longer could lift the animals. So at that point, John goes, well, I know a lot of people in the plumbing industry. Let's kind of get you a desk job. As much as I didn't want a desk job, it turned into that. But now it's not a desk job. Now I absolutely love owning Gulfview Plumbing. I'm out networking and getting out and about. But yes, a vet tech before plumbing.
Wow, very nice.
So how has your business grown since it first started, when it was just the two of you sort of building it from the ground up?
Well, it's grown not only as a team in general as far as employees and what we have in house, but it's also grown as clientele and name recognition. So there's a lot of different ways that it has grown. Early on, you're correct. As we started out, it was just Chrissy and I. And I was out in the field, and she was answering phones and scheduling calls, and I was out doing the work. Once we got to the point to where it became unable to be handled by myself out in the field and the calls that were coming in, we added another technician, another truck, and so forth to get to the point to where we are now. Now we're at a crew of 6, and
Wow.
then we have Chrissy and myself in the office. I haven't been out in a truck in several years now. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've been out in the field. We were fortunate enough to have a great crew of guys that work with and for us, and we have a warehouse manager that helps us at the office, and but as far as the business itself, I mean, it continues to grow. I mean, that's our daily main principle of work, is to try to make the business continue to grow.
That's impressive because, right now it's just Jenna and I and our assistant, and, if there's a court case or if there's a court date, it's one of us that has to go. So to hear that you're at the point where, you haven't been on a truck in 2 years, that's aspiring. It's kind of what we hope to get to, whether it's through hiring, an associate or a couple of associates to be the ones to go to court for us. And then if, there's really a fire that needs to be put out, then, we can come in and sort of clean things up. But, it's very, again, inspiring to see you guys go from just a husband and wife team to now a crew of 6 where you're not on the trucks anymore. So has there anything in particular that's helped kind of get you to that point? You mentioned the networking. How important has that been, Chrissy?
To me, networking is the number one thing to help grow your business. It really is. Networking isn't just building relationships with other business and entrepreneurs. You're getting to know your community. You're getting to know your neighbors. So when you are networking, you're building friendships, not just that business friendship, but true friendships. And being able to network really helps grow your business because they're getting to know you and they want to help grow your business. They want to be part of it. So that's why, to me, networking is a huge, huge part of it.
I have to ask you guys, so I know that you're in charge of socials, but your marketing outside of socials is absolutely phenomenal. So, for example, we moved into our house about 2 years ago. I realized that there is a Gulfview Plumbing pen that we're using. I also realized that there is a Gulfview Plumbing sticker on our water heater. I'm driving to court and I see billboards. How did you guys crack the marketing code? Do you have somebody that knows marketing? How did you guys do that?
I think some of it was just from what we had seen work from previous experiences with our other employers, stuff that was trial and error on certain things. We always try to have metrics on things to where we can see what's working. Chrissy's very good about asking when a call comes in, how did you hear about us today? Mm-hmm. We're fortunate enough to have a CRM system that can also monitor that once we get that answer, we can put that into the system and it'll give us a percentage of hot spots on a map as to where these calls are coming from, or vice versa as to what they were generated from. Was it as you said, a billboard that they saw us or found us on Google, or they had a sticker and their number on it, or they scanned a QR code that they found somewhere or something like that. And then we continue to build off of those. Once we find an avenue that works, then we utilize that and try to find any little subsidiaries of those that we can also generate work from.
But I do want to touch the subject on that. We don't hire out for that. We do not outsource it. So everything that you're seeing is stuff that we have created.
That's awesome.
That is one thing that we really like to be hands-on with that. So the billboard designs, the coming up with doing billboards, the pens, all of that, the social medias. I built our website, still have our website, have not given that over to anybody yet.
Wow.
So those are things that we really, I actually enjoy. That's kind of the side of it that I bring into.
That is awesome. We have some marketing help. Rick's getting better with making the videos and realizing, that's what gains, traction and what people want to see. And it also is nice to have control over that, like you said, because it's your name, your business. You want to make sure that it's done to how you want it. But you have phenomenal marketing.
Thank you. We love it.
Yes.
So shifting gears, obviously, starting a business is very difficult and time consuming. You're also trying to raise a family at the same time. So, how are you able to sort of, balance those two? Because obviously both require a lot of time and attention.
Yeah. Well, I'd kind of like to start with that one. Our kids from day one have always been on our schedule. We're probably not your typical parents where, bedtime is this, nap time is this, we eat at this time. Being in the plumbing industry, we don't really have a set time. We don't have a set schedule because we don't know when an emergency call is going to come in or when they're not. So they've always been on our schedule. So that has really, really helped us in that department, and help growing with that is that as they've gotten older, they've seen it. They know our schedule. I shouldn't say schedule. They know that some days we're going to be busy, some days we're going to be slow, and they're used to that. They're seeing that. They're understanding what the plumbing industry is about. And it's really neat for them to kind of grow up in that aspect.
I would agree. That especially early on, as we said, when we started the business, when it was just Chrissy and myself, handling every single thing, from getting the calls, marketing for the calls, having the calls come over the phones, then to doing the work and then sending out payments. It was everything. So to try to balance that and still raise a family, it had challenges, but I think that coming into it, we had already kind of set the tone and the foundation to allow us to do that. As far as even early on before we started Gulfview. Chrissy was fortunate enough at her previous employer to have the ability to take the kids to work with her in her office.
Nice.
Yes.
So
Very
it was, that just kind of segued right into our, our own business with Gulfview, which allowed us to kind of keep that same principle mentality of, keeping the kids with us, or, making sure that any of our scheduling kind of coincided with theirs. And early on in a brick and mortar setting for them in a school, it had its own challenges. And I think that doing the virtual school and homeschooling that we do now has also helped free up a lot of that, that we were kind of confined to with their schedule aspect before, that we had to work around, which now gives us a bit more freedom.
So let's talk about that, because we've had a few guests on the show that have homeschooled and made that decision to do that. But I don't think we've really touched on virtual school and how that kind of correlates to homeschooling. So could you sort of explain how you arrived at that decision and what it's been like so far?
Absolutely. It started with COVID. When COVID happened, we had to, I called it crisis schooling, and at this time I'm not a teacher. I am not, and he is not. We run a plumbing company. That's what we do.
You don't like doing long division?
No. So we actually hired a teacher. Because of course she couldn't go to school either. So we hired a teacher to come in. We had pods set up. So inside our office, we had 6 different stations, and kids were spread apart. And so that's how we started our homeschool process. As they gotten older, we didn't need her anymore for making sure they were staying on top, helping them, because of course she was a elementary school teacher. As they're getting to middle school and high school, we've kind of aged out with her. She was a great asset for us. We're very grateful that we had her at that time. But then we found out Florida Virtual, they actually have their own teachers. They have their own counselors, and they have to stay on task for themselves. I get a text message every Monday and Friday to let me know how they're doing, if they've missed assignment, if they haven't. So we're kind of more of the principal now than that, and that's why I absolutely enjoy it. And it does allow our schedule and our daughter's baseball schedule. She plays travel baseball, so that allows, if Friday she doesn't do school, that's okay. She can do it Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So it really, really has been a great asset for us, and especially our son. He hates to sit still. He is not one to sit still, so that 6 hours at school was not his thing. He's now an AB student. He was a
Awesome.
C student. So it really, really, when he stresses out about an assignment, he can get up, go for a walk, and come back, and nobody's yelling at him.
Ashlyn, I would love to hear your perspective
Yes.
on sort of transitioning from your traditional going to school brick and mortar building to then virtual school. What was that like?
It was definitely different at first, going from a group of people to a group of 3 kids. So from that, it was weird not like being with friends or anything, but I like it a lot more because it gives me more time to learn and take everything in instead of just having to be rushed and not being able to learn as much as I would now.
Okay, fantastic.
I also want to ask you, our kids are 4, 6, and 8. And I hope that they're getting the experience of us running a business. But how has it been to see your parents starting a business, running the business? Has it been an awesome experience for you?
Definitely. It's really cool to see and like learn that different side of the real world and
Yes.
see how like the workforce is.
Yes. Do you think that you'll stay more into the design and jewelry aspect, or do you think you'll ever venture into the plumbing, the family plumbing business?
Definitely possibly like part-time plumbing a little bit, but I love doing the jewelry, so that's definitely
Yes.
But
my
what
main
you
thing.
can also explain what you want to go to school for. What do you want to be?
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to be a personal injury attorney that specializes in domestic violence cases.
Wow.
Very nice.
Fantastic. So what we one of our guests, Chris Lancaster, who we're going to have on or had on, he's a personal injury attorney. So he does a great job, and he's obviously raising a family, and so it's a very rewarding profession. And so that's very cool. That's a great goal to have. Takes a lot of hard work, but it's worth it.
We'll come back to you, Ashlyn, but I want to talk to you guys about the parent aspect of the travel
Yes.
baseball, and then
Yes.
we'll get Ashlyn's experience. But our kids, they're still in like the kind of play phase because they do baseball, but they don't take it as seriously yet. Again, they're young. We're not at the travel stage yet, but how has that been, obviously, in, again, running a business, raising a family, doing travel ball? Stressful, easy?
It could be stressful on my side of it, but also rewarding. With her travel ball teams, I'm also the DJ.
Okay.
So I do the walk-up songs and I play the music. So it's really fun to see. My mom took this amazing picture of me when we were in Cooperstown. It's me sitting on the ground in the bleachers with the radio, my iPad, and my computer all set up. And I'm dispatching. I've got the phone on, but yet you can see me still being the DJ. So it has been rewarding on that part. But it is also stressful because you are still running a business. We're not. It's not like we're going out having fun, right? We absolutely enjoy watching her play, but we're also running a business at the same time. So we get a little mixture of both.
Yeah, it does. It has its own stressful moments for sure. Because when she started out, it wasn't immediately into travel ball. I mean, she's always been athletic. She actually started out as an ice skater.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow,
and then
very cool.
a lot, as she said, happened around when COVID hit. That's when we converted over to the homeschooling and eventually Florida virtual. That's also when she started to take up baseball. At that point, she was playing with her brother, who also plays baseball, and some other kids in the neighborhood, and that kind of led into, her taking a liking to it, and then eventually playing Little League, and just continually quickly progressing, and then wanted to solely switch over to baseball from ice skating. And then at that point, once we got into competitive play of like travel ball, that was a whole other world. I mean, even without the challenges of owning a business and all the other things that we have, travel ball is a dedication on a parent's part just to begin with.
Yes.
So then when you kind of, complicate that a little bit with the, responsibilities of owning and running a business at the same time, as Chrissy said, it never ends. So there's times when, unfortunately, she'll have to answer the phone and she'll hear the screaming and cheering in the background.
And I'm always like, I'm sorry, we're at my daughter's baseball tournament. And then they're like, your daughter plays baseball? I'm like, yes, you heard that right. And she plays for two teams. She plays for an all-girls team based out of California and her boys team here based out of Clearwater. So we are really juggling a lot when it comes to work and baseball.
And there's some of the tournaments that we find ourselves out of state too. So I mean, it's not all localized to where we're working from here. So that's one of the nice things about having the type of system in place that we do for our business is that it is all paperless now. So everything that we have is on the iPads, or tablets or computers. So the guys have the same thing. So any changes we make immediately get converted to them as far as any price book updates or dispatching, so we can do those travel things with baseball and still be able to run a business as if we're sitting in the office.
I think mentioning going paperless, I think that's huge. I think many businesses are going that way, and I think that the businesses that are not forward thinking and not using technology to their advantage are going to fall behind. I remember when I was at the public defender's office, I had a supervisor that made us go paperless. And it was the best thing that he could have done, because now in private practice, I'll have my computer up at the podium where other people have their, their paper file, but if I need something that wouldn't be in a paper file, I can easily go and find it. But again, it sounds like you guys are very just forward thinking and on top of it. I'm assuming you guys probably have specific like systems software that you use.
We do. It's specifically it's Service Titan, which is what we use for our CRM system. It kind of runs just about everything that we do as far as our dispatching, call scheduling, accounting, our price book, material restocking for the trucks. It's everything kind of all encompassed in one, and they're generated specifically towards contractors. They started out targeting for contractors of like plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, and that was probably 10, 15 years ago. Now I think they're up to like 30-something trades that they can appeal to as far as those same business layouts. And what's nice about that is, as I said, I mean, you see Chrissy sitting here right now with an iPad in her lap. I mean, all of our technicians, they all have the same iPad. So when they go to a call, they get their dispatch notification on the iPad. They get there and they have the price book there to present items immediately to the customer. If the customer is not on site, they can be sent a text or an email to do an e-sign for authorization of the work.
Wow.
They can get pictures and videos if they're not there of what the technician's explaining. They can in real time send those to the client to where they can look at them and see, okay, I see what you're talking about, or I see what's failed, or I see where the leak is now. Yes, go ahead and do it. I'll sign it right now, and then that converts back. And once they're done, they get an email of the paperless invoice. So it really is a very streamlined process to what we used to do with mailing stuff out or handwriting invoices and those type of things.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is, it's been about a year since Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene hit. For our business, that really did nothing. It made no difference whatsoever. People are still going to go out and get into an accident or get into trouble. But for you, that it's a huge impact. So how did Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton affect your business? And what did you guys do to sort of help the response?
Plumbers are kind of essential workers, right?
Yes.
So number one, though, our number one concern is always our technician and their families. So some of them did evacuate, some did stay here. So the technicians that did stay here were ready to hop in right away. And that's what we did. From right after the hurricane, we were helping mainly our restaurants down on the beaches there, because they really needed the help first. Homeowners, they were still kind of more in the shock of trying to figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to do everything. Work did pick up, then it did get slow because we didn't have permits in place. And that has been the very toughest thing for a lot of these homeowners in rebuilding, has been the permit phase. So once all of that was good, then the homeowners were able to start rebuilding. So we were able to help quite a bit of our clients, and still helping quite a bit of our clients.
Yeah, we definitely saw an uptick in business, specifically for those type of calls that were affected by the storms. People, on the barrier islands that their houses were flooded. For our business specifically, it was the sewer lines got inundated with debris and sand and compacted with that. Low-lying levels of the homes that had plumbing equipment in there, like water heaters or filtration systems or water softeners or appliances that were down that low, of dishwashers and those type of things. I mean, because once that type of stormwater comes in contact with it, there's no salvaging those. So people having to prepare for replacing those, or insurance claims, or whatever they had in place. That was kind of the thing that we were at the mercy of, was waiting on approval of some of those things. Now, there were some exceptions to the rule with certain clients that they were in a different position to where they could pay for those things immediately, and they wanted to try to get back to their normalcy as quick as possible. So they would just pay immediate for all this stuff to be done, and then they were going back and trying to get reimbursed, from wherever their provider was, if it allowed it.
And we did give discounts, because this was something that was we couldn't control it. So we weren't price gouging. We weren't these companies that were coming out here to make a buck off of this.
Yes.
There were several calls and instances that we either did it at no charge, or waived stuff, or donated materials and those type of things when we could, or if the job allowed it.
Yeah.
So we had ads out there, just trying to let people know that we were doing these things. It was difficult in the sense that some people would try to take advantage of it
Yeah.
that weren't genuine, but the ones that we knew that were genuine and needed that help, we did everything we could to help them out.
That's
And
great.
and the thing I noticed, the first thing you said was, we wanted to make sure that our employees were okay.
Yes.
Like that was
Yes.
in what you first went to in your response. So I think that just shows, you guys are doing a great job being a leader for your team
Yes.
and, caring about your employees. And, I think when you do that, they want to work and they want to do, the best job that they can for you guys. So that's very cool. And to see what you guys did for the community, after the storm, and like I said, the discounts and just helping people.
We are very blessed for our team. We are very, very, very blessed for our
We
team.
we are, and when something like that happens, as a company, we do prep quite well as far as having an abundance of supplies and materials, and all of our employees and our guys know that those are for their use as much as ours. So we have generators and portable AC units and fuel cans and a reserve of water and those type of things for them to have access to in these type of situations.
That's amazing. Ashlyn, I want to just go back to you because we talked about travel ball, but obviously you're the one involved in it. How do you like travel ball? Obviously, we've heard great things about you and how awesome you are, but how do you like it?
I love travel ball. I don't know if I'd have it any other way. I love playing baseball out there every single weekend, practicing every single day of the week, either by myself or with my team. And it's really cool to see how some of the guys adapt to a girl playing with them.
Yes.
Especially because at this age, 14, it's very rare to have girls playing at such a competitive level. So it's cool to see the different reactions and how they see when I actually will do good, like when I do good off of them.
At what point did you realize that you were sort of better than the other boys that you were playing with?
I would say that was around like 12U when I
Okay.
started hitting home runs out of the park.
Wow, impressive.
That's awesome.
We were just telling Chris about Ricky's first home run was last night, and but it wasn't over the fence.
It was because the kids were overthrowing the ball at the bases, so he was just able to keep running.
That is still a home run in the park.
a few overthrows to help him out, but that's awesome, impressive. One of the things you had mentioned, John, was you spend a lot of time kind of staying up to date with the industry standards, new things that are coming out, information. Kind of tell us, how are you able to kind of stay up to speed with all the new things in relation to, because I'm sure, state laws affect your business, permitting affects your business, changes in that regard. So what are you doing to make sure that, you've got that knowledge when these new things arise?
Well, I am on several emailing lists with our vendors and a lot of our suppliers. So any, major changes, they send those out, and then I just, educate myself on the information that they're giving me. There's also several things pertaining to like Service Titan. I'm fortunate enough to where they put out very educational webinars on their updates and their processes and procedures and best practices that they recommend, or if they introduce a new service or a new feature, for Service Titan, it shows how that operates, or the best way to use that and how it can be, an asset to our company for something that we already have in place. So those are some of the things I do there. Also, as far as county's concerned, in our local level, I'm on the Pinellas County Construction Licensing Board as the plumbing seat for them. So I'm fortunate enough to get to see those changes before a lot of it takes place, as far as any updates on a local level, like a county level, that are being changed in that type of setting. So. But yeah, it's a lot of it is, it's not just one avenue that information comes from. I mean, it can come from, vendors, suppliers. It can come from our CRM system. I mean, there's several ways. Legally, I'm required to also keep up, like every contractor is, with continuing education.
Yep.
To have those CEU hours. So we keep up with that too. So there's a lot of different things we do to stay relevant.
You mentioned having a seat on the Pinellas County Construction Licensing Board. Having been in Pinellas County doing what we do for a number of years now, we see a lot of unlicensed contracting cases. So I might have to pick your brain after this episode and ask you a
that
couple
is
of
always
questions.
a topic of every meeting. And in fact, they have a task force in Pinellas County that they
Yes,
started
yes,
years
they
ago
do.
that has grown. I've watched it grow since I've been on the board. It started with just one of their deputies, and I think now they have 5 or 6 that they separate the county up in sections, and they go specifically looking for unlicensed contractors.
Well, we've seen stings, and even at the state attorney's office in Pinellas County, they have a special unit that just handles unlicensed contracting cases.
Yes.
So it's always great to know contracted businesses, because we see the mess that people end up in when they hire someone that's not licensed.
Yes, it is not good.
No.
It's unfortunately, I don't know that it's ever going to go away. And I think, in my own opinion, that in today's age of all the social media out there, it's much easier for these type of contractors to, poach on homeowners and businesses. When somebody is looking for a recommendation online, you'll notice that there's a flood of people come up that, most of which probably aren't licensed contractors. And those are the ones that, in my opinion, are hard to kind of catch, because it's just an immediate interaction between that contractor and that potential customer.
I want to ask you a question, either one of you. What piece of advice would you give to somebody that might be going through a career change or have an opportunity to start their own business? What would you tell them?
Foundation. Number one, at home. You've got to have communication. Your family needs to be steady, and just to be able to, because you're going to grow. It's stressful. If it's going to be starting your own business, it is very, very stressful. And if you are able to have that foundation, even if it's just you starting the business, maybe it's not a husband and wife, you need to make sure that partner is on board with you, because there's going to be late nights, there's going to be early mornings, so you need to make sure that foundation is there.
I agree. I think that's key, is that, one of the comments we hear so often is, I don't think I could work with my spouse, or I don't think I could work with my
We
with
got that a lot.
wife, right? And I hear that all the time, and for a lot of people, I mean, it could be true. I mean, you never know where somebody's at, on any level of their life, whether it be, marital or financial or spiritually or whatever. Everybody's at a different place. We felt comfortable enough when we started Gulfview Plumbing that we knew that this is something that we wanted to do together. We had all the prerequisites that we needed, as far as our work careers were concerned, and our marriage was concerned, and our kids, and we were just at the spot where we felt this was the right time to do what we wanted to do to help benefit ourselves and our family. And like anything else, I'm sure the two of you can attest to. You have your days when you might get under each other's skin a bit, or you might ruffle each other's feathers. But at the end of the day, you realize that you're still a husband and wife.
Yes.
You're still that's where it comes first, and then your business owner second.
And I've always loved that, the 100%. Sometimes I can give 80.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's the 20. Sometimes I'm the 20. Sometimes you're the 80. Sometimes we're 50-50.
Yeah.
As long as you are always at that 100% together,
Yes.
you're going to be fine.
Yes.
And be able to communicate, hey, dude, I'm only giving you 20% today. I need you to pick up the rest, So, but I think that's what really works for us.
Ashlyn, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur that wants to start their own business?
You definitely have to put time into it. You can't just only do like an hour every month, because that's not going to be able to get business. But definitely just take your time to set up what you need and get everything you need, and then focus on setting it up. Take your time, definitely.
I love it.
That's great. Well, thank you again, guys, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you on. Again, would you please remind our viewers where they can find you and what you can help with?
Absolutely. We are on all social medias. We are on Facebook, Instagram. I'm learning YouTube. That one's been tough. We are on X, and mainly our website. Go out, check out gulfviewplumbing.com, and that is pretty much all the socials. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Well,
thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, John, Chrissy, Ashlyn. It's been a pleasure having you on. Stay tuned, because we still have our segment on what happened to Florida Man coming up next. Welcome back for this segment on what happened to Florida man. We're going to talk about a man in Indian River County who, instead of trying to break out of jail, he tried to break into jail. Reasons, according to the article, is that he wanted to hang out with his friends. I'm not really too sure what his intentions were. But in this particular case, you have a man that drove his car recklessly into the jail complex, narrowly hitting a deputy, crashing into a couple of police cruisers. And then not only did he crash, he got out of his car, scaled the fence, got over the top of the fence and was scaling down into the jail, but then got caught in the razor wire, and the staff at the jail had to help get him free. And then he was clearly arrested, charged with a bunch of different felonies. And then at the end of it all, he ended up getting a sentence of county jail followed by probation. So he got, I think, initially 8 months county jail followed by a probationary sentence, quickly violated probation, and ended up getting sentenced to 38 months in prison.
Wow.
So not many times do we see people trying to break into jail. This was truly a unique case for this Florida man. And, I'd love to know what he was thinking. I think there was an indication that he was on a drug called Flakka at the time. And just, I think one of the things that our viewers need to know, that even if you're buying something at the store that's perfectly legal, look at the ingredients, do some research before you put something into your body that you don't really know what it is. Because just because it's sold at a gas station doesn't necessarily make it safe. And so I think this is definitely a cautionary tale to just be careful with what you put into your body, especially if you get it from a gas station or something like that.
It's just, again, one of those sad stories that you obviously know someone's not in their right state of mind, doing things that they probably normally would never do if they weren't on some type of substance. And like you said, just don't do drugs.
And I will say that, since having kids, we read the ingredients on
everything
that we buy for them. And, at the grocery store, we can tell you how many grams of protein are in the Greek yogurt that we get, 16 grams of protein. We have definitely gotten into a habit of always reading those ingredients. So definitely a cautionary tale. So again, thank you for tuning into our show. This has been another episode of From Courtroom to Carline, a legal parenting podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode.